Well, there I was in the office, and I thought, wouldn't a cab ride in a diesel locomotive be nice before the onset of winter? So, a few phone calls later to Lewis Maddox on the Severn Valley Railway, and there I was at Kidderminster Station. You may recall 2 years ago we took this locomotive, GWR 7812 Earlstock Manor, out for a spin as part of a driver experience course. Now I have to admit I'm a bit of a diesel enthusiast, so this time a diesel electric was the order of the day. So here we are inside the cab of 33108, and I'm here with Jeff from the Severn Valley Railway. Pleased to meet you, and his second man Miles. Hello.
Nice to meet you, right?
So you're our driver of the day. Tell us a little bit about your history on the Severn Valley Railway.
I started here about 25 years ago as a driver. Over the years I've sort of become a loco inspector.
Yeah.
So I look after the day-to-day needs of the diesel drivers, rules, exams, training, passing drivers out for driving. I also do a bit of work in the diesel depot.
This is the brand new diesel depot.
Yes, our 18-month-old diesel depot.
Must be nice place to work.
It's a game changer. We've gone from working in a field to perhaps one of the best equipped diesel depots in the country.
So how many diesel drivers are you sort of looking after now?
We have about 35 to 40 plus around 20 second men. So they're the chaps who are going to be taking over in the future.
Right. I've reason to believe that this 33 isn't permanently based at the Severn Valley Railway.
No, it isn't. It came here in May 17 for the diesel gala and was invited to stay on. It's used for trains like this, also for P-way work. It's scheduled to leave the railway next May, but we'd like to keep it and hopefully it'll stay for another year after that.
It's a nice place to be. Now, Jeff was telling me before an interesting history of this Class 33. You'll note there's a slight little crack above his head there. Tell us about that.
Unfortunately, some years ago, it was involved in a shunting incident at Swanage Railway. It received a bit of a clout, so I think the long-term aims of the group, the owning group, is to completely repair this cab. It's still showing one or two scars of the incident, but hopefully that will be resolved in a few years' time.
There's probably quite an authentic interior as to how it would look in BR service. So Jeff's now going to talk us through some of the controls of the locomotive.
Starting from here then, main reservoir, which is the amount of air pressure in the loco's system. Yeah. Train pipe is the brake system. So I've got 72.5 psi in the pipe. Brake cylinder gauge, vacuum pipe. So that's showing 21 inches, which is the vacuum in the train. Yeah. And the chamber side, speedo speaks for itself, and the ammeter on the end.
So ideally, how many amps are you looking to not pass when you're driving? You're never going to be thrashing it too much.
No. You apply as many amps as you can to get up to line speed, and then just control it accordingly. I mean, on a 25-mile-an-hour railway like this, you've no need to make huge brake applications. You can come down to about 15 inches of vacuum with the train. You'll get a corresponding rise on the air side on the locomotive. So it'll be more or less where it is now.
So we're just backing up onto the train at Kidderminster here, ready to depart to Bridgnorth. So the next stage is to couple up to the train, and for that they'll leave the brakes applied to the coaches, and because it's a Buckeye coupling, they'll try to accelerate away from the train, and if there's some resistance there, that means that it's properly coupled up. Of course, then there's the vacuum pipes, train heat. unfortunately that's the end. We're now at Bridge North, so I've got to thank Jeff, our driver, and Miles, second man. Thank you very much for your time today. We're going to catch the next train back, but before, let's check out the station at Bridge North. The station and shed at Bridge North was the end of the Severn Valley Railway I visited so often when I was younger. Today its plan to extend the station building with much needed facilities is already well underway, costing an estimated £2.5 million. Much of the maintenance of its steam fleet is carried out at the nearby steam shed, now free of diesel motive power, which has been transferred to the diesel depot at Kidderminster. Well, everything except the resident diesel shunter. So I'm joined in the studio here with a familiar face from the magazine. It's Michael Russell, and you'll note that what we've got on the table here is something that we've got featured in the current magazine, your scrapyard diorama. So what I didn't get from the photographs in the magazine is just the sense of how compact this actually is, but also all these different elements around it. So talk us through the concept. Why make a scrapyard diorama? Why this size, and what's everything going on around it?
Okay, so back in 2011, RM Web had a competition to make a diorama or a working layout in 20 inches by 11 inches, which is what we've got here. So the size was, decided for me by the competition rules. And I wanted to do something different. And I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought, well, scrapyards haven't really been covered at all. I've seen rows of condemned engines on layout.
Yes.
But even then, I've always felt it had been the poor relation of the models, because it was old models that people had, previous generation models that people didn't really wanted to hide, really.
It tends to be a corner of a layout. They're not quite sure what to stick in it, so here, have some scrapyard.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I didn't think the subject had been done justice, so I thought, well, it's time to give it the attention it really deserves,
Okay. So all of the elements around the outside here, I'm guessing, you can use to pose on the scrapyard itself. So I'm guessing that means that every time you take a picture or you do a photographic shoot, it looks different to how it did the last time because you've moved elements around.
Yeah, I wanted to maximise the flexibility of the diorama. There are elements that are fixed there, but most of it isn't, and so I can pose it to my heart's content. So I can maybe demonstrate that with one of the engines. For example, so with a 4MT, I built it so you can pose the smoke box door with either open or closed.
Wow.
So you can see the detail inside.
Yeah. There's a lot of detail that you've added in there. Pipe work and the blast pipe and...
Yeah, it's got smoke tubes in there. In fact, I went a bit overboard there and did several rows of superheater elements, even though you can't see all of them.
If you'd like to, just out of interest, do something similar to your locomotives, well, you can check out Michael Russell's article in the current issue of BRM. I mean, this is brilliant. You've got all these sort of exposed asbestos lagging there. Poor workers, not quite sure what they're in for, but that's what happened in the scrapyards. And of course, you've added quite a bit of detail to the underside, brake rigging. That's really, really nice. I'm guessing all of those tubes and drilling out each one. I mean, certainly as the boiler stays. I'm just trying to find it. Here we are. So this must have taken quite some time to do.
Yeah, this is one of those jobs like ballasting where you think, I just want to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because it is a long, drawn-out modelling event, adding all the stays on there. That involves putting wire in a hole, gluing it, and then snipping it off.
Oh, right.
It sounds simple, but when you're doing it, many dozens of times, it soon starts to weigh you down. So I just put some music on and got on with it, but it's one of them jobs you don't look forward to,
That looks really, really nice. And of course, on the diorama, fills a corner quite easily. So in terms of elements that you've chosen for the diorama, what have you used to sort of get the ideas and as to what you could see at the average scrapyard? Because obviously this is just purely for locomotives and rolling stock, so I'm guessing people who usually do a scrapyard, it tends to be there's a rusty car and then there's something else going on and then there's a locomotive, it's all a little bit mixed. But this is purely just railway scrap, so a lot of online research, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of books on scrapyards as well, and the Steam for Scrap series is very good. And like as you say, there's resources online as well. So I considered, well, what the main scrapyards were, you know, that everybody knows about, and I suppose the most famous one is Wooden Brothers of Barry, and they were known for cost saving their engines because they had wagons to cut up instead.
Because it was faster and cheaper to cut up a wagon.
Yeah,
scrap
exactly.
was there than it was for you know, locomotives.
It's not that Barry didn't cut up some steam engines; they did, even into the 1980s. But they concentrated on other things, which was good because then, of course, the preservation movement had a chance to, you know, get set up. So some of the engines you'll notice are in Barry scrapyard condition. For example, the 9F here.
Now this is from what origin originally?
Well, this is
a little bit like a sort of Airfix now Dapol kit.
Yeah, you're quite right, Howard. That's exactly what it is. Which is, you know, they're about 50 years old now. These originally from Rosebud, and these are ideal starting point because they're cheap. You're not going to wreck, you know, a good model making turn it into scrapyard condition. So you can see this is an engine which has been outside. It's weathered. It's had parts taken from it by enthusiasts.
So are you building this up as the kit is intended and then modifying it, or are you just building it up and adding bits as you go along?
Yeah, the basic parts you want from the kit is things like the boiler and the wheels, but in actual fact you end up, well, you start by taking most of the detail off because you don't actually want it there. So the first job actually is to take most of the detail on and then add it all back on.
Okay.
Partly because some of the details rather crude by modern standards, but also I don't want to model things as they are on the kit. For example, the dome is completely different in the condition I've depicted it in because the cover's gone, and so I didn't want the dome as included in the kit on this anyway.
So as far as cost goes, I'm guessing something like that's cost you what, 15 quid in total with all your accessories and your bits you've added to it?
Yeah, for the Dapol kit, but then the brake rigging, for example, that's actually from a Bachmann 9F, so I actually ordered that separately. So
right, okay.
And the wheels on this one are from the Gibson range. So yeah, there's a few other parts there as well, but most of it, you know, I have scratch built.
A very nice model it is too. So we've now looked at your scrapyard diorama that we've got in the current issue. Of course, to many viewers who are regular readers of BRM, the following dioramas may ring a few bells. So these are all ones that you built for the magazine. And I've got a question to ask you here. What do you think constitutes the ultimate diorama? What elements do you think a diorama should contain?
Well, I like to put something new on mine, something that people haven't done before, and pack a lot of detail in. I mean, I'm an admirer of the military modelers who do small dioramas and put that much in there that you can spend lots of time looking at it and still see something new every time you look at it. You know,
sort of adopted that method to this diorama here. So what would ordinarily be a piece of track running around somebody's layout, you've added a lot more line side detail. So this is an article that we ran on line side detail, lots of vegetation. Now it's true that you see a lot of this going on at the side of tracks, and yet very few layouts actually represent it. It tends to be just flock or static grass.
Yeah, well, a lot of layouts that I see are set in the summer, but what's the summer? It's like saying I want food that's pie flavoured or curry flavoured. You should be able to tell the season, you know, the exact month by looking at the layout. And I was on the North Yorkshire moors and I was looking at the line side vegetation. I noticed there was a contrast between the seed heads and the grass. And that's what I've tried to replicate here. So this is called September line side for that reason. And so we've got the grass which has gone to seed and it's a straw colour, and the seed heads which are very dark, and the contrast between the two, which I've never seen modelled, and that's the idea behind this diorama.
And of course you've got the sort of area of pasture land which is constantly grazed, different colour, and then obviously the tufts of weeds and things that you've picked out there, so that's quite effective. And then you've got the coal staiths, of course, and a bit of a rocky outcrop.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. They're made from foam, and again, that was in the magazine. And I've also used a product to represent puddles which have dried up.
Right.
And that's a Grell on Earth, I think it's called, made by Citadels.
So there's plenty of ideas here for your layout at home. If you've got an area that you might think, well, actually, I'm not quite sure what to do there, create a park, add more detail to the sides of your tracks. Why not create your very own scrapyard, indeed? In fact, I'm sure there might be a few people creating some scrapyards after this issue of BRM. So for you guys at home, I hope you enjoyed this session. And yes, look out for Michael Russell at our exhibitions.
Hi Howard, come in.
Thank you. Wow. This is a nice setup you've got here.
Thank you.
There's a shed at the bottom. Wow, this is nice.
Thank you. Yeah. This is the design centre and the stock room really, and in this other room, which we can go through, is where the laser cutters are.
Oh wow. So these keep you busy pretty much full time then?
Yeah, they're on 5 days a week, many hours a day. Let's
Okay.
leave it like that. It's, this one's 60 watt, that one's 40 watt. I find that I'm unloading one while one's cutting out, so it's good use of time.
Yeah.
So,
I can see you've got two laptops obviously with all the designs and patterns on, so it's from that you then cut them out and...
yeah, we've got a network set up so that both laptops can look at the same files and import the same files.
Okay. Well, let's have a look at the stock room then.
Okay. Howard,
Yes.
it's B.
Hello B.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. I believe you're the brains behind the business.
Don't know about that.
Well, I was actually shown before 7 new products. Let's take a look at them. This is essentially a product that you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're launching it in a couple of weeks' time at the NEC, and it's a street scene for the Doll's House world. I'm going to take it a bit Dickensian, snow,
Okay.
lamplight. Hopefully it'll be a bit of a showstopper.
This is 1:48 though,
Yeah.
isn't it, I think? So this is a Doll's House scale, but it's very similar, of course, to 1:43, which is O gauge for railway modellers. So what actually lends its inspiration? How do you get the ideas for something like this?
Normally I start with sketches,
Oh, wow.
so
These are nice.
I'll just doodle some ideas and come up with those, and then I'll do some
Is
research.
this from things you've seen, photographs,
Yeah.
or places you've been? Or
I'm a bit of a loon with a camera. It's
Okay.
I'm always like, stop the car.
Right,
I need to take
okay,
a picture of that. So I collect photographs of buildings and
Yeah.
also like to sketch.
I can see you've got some ideas here. From
Yeah, so it's just like
previous-
illustrations and stuff, and then they kind of all meld together,
Okay.
and
So
voila.
each one of these is a separate individual kit.
Yeah.
But I guess if you wanted to, you could buy all of them together. Is
Yeah, they can. They build up to be a street scene, or you could make a smaller street scene. Not all of our customers have that amount of space, so you can make a street scene which mix and match whichever ones you want.
So we're here at your preparation bench. This is where all the kits are made before being dispatched. It must be really nice being able to work from home, because I know you've both had full-time jobs.
I think the commute's the nicest thing. Literally just down the path, 30 seconds, and you're at work. So that's quite nice.
Because it is now a family business, isn't it? You've got your daughter involved.
Yeah, we employ our youngest daughter. She works with us, which is a big help. Although I'm not sure that she really likes working between her parents sometimes. We can get a bit fiery.
Well, I mean, it must be nice to be able to build something up from scratch, and then, of course, develop it to a point now where you were saying before that sometimes it's difficult to cope with the number of orders you get at the stand to show. It's got to be good. There's another order.
Petite Properties. You certainly can. Wonderful. What were you after? Okay. Not a problem at all. All right, you take care. Cheers. Bye.
So, I mean, you were saying before that orders now are so busy it shows that you struggle to cope with demand, so that must be a good thing.
It's a nice problem to have. I think we call the autumn seasons particularly busy. where we have almost back-to-back shows with Dolls House shows and railway shows. And we call it silly season because you've got your show schedule, but you've also got online orders always coming in, and then obviously the build up to Christmas. Everyone wants to do the Christmas shopping, so it can get a bit frantic. But it's a good problem to have.
So you do the Dolls House shows, you also do the railway shows.
Yeah.
And looking at your calendar, I think it was nearly every other weekend or something.
We've got almost back to back.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
No, it is.
And you've got the van, of course, to get around. So do you keep stock for the van and then also here, or because there's a heck of a lot of stock as it is of your kits at the moment?
We have to unload, don't we?
We have to unload, yeah.
Say we,
there's certain
it's the
products that
royal
you
we,
wouldn't
him.
want to leave out in the van as well because of the temperatures and the humidity.
Okay, right.
So you bring them in where it's dry, warm, and you can control the atmosphere here.
So looking at some of your kits we've got here, I couldn't help but notice this. Tell us what they are.
Oh, it was a project that I wrote several years ago for Dolls House and Miniature Scene magazine, and it's just a pair of bookends, but they do light. There's no interior to them, but it was just a quirky project for the magazine which they ran. But I've got it out because I want to revisit the design, and I think I will convert it for railway layouts.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not into model railways, this could sit nicely on a bookshelf, couldn't it? Nice little project for a winter evening. And of course, I guess you could adapt it for a model railway if you wanted to. But,
You can light them, the roof will take off, and you can put battery lighting in them if you wanted to.
They sit nicely. And of course, you've got the recently released church here now. This, obviously,
That's the 48th
very
version.
nicely detailed and decorated inside. So, what sort of planning goes into a kit like this? Because obviously, all the parts need to fit together without any play in the joints. So, is there a sort of prototype before you actually start producing them?
Normally I start with sketching and then move to the computer where I draw up the sketches on the computer, and then basically it's a case of trial and error. So we'll cut it out and then put it together. Does it fit? Does it not fit? Tweak it this way, that way, and it depends how lucky I've been on the first design as to whether it works first time. Some kits seem to go together incredibly easily and others take longer to develop.
And of course, you've got the N-Gauge version here.
That's literally just a paint effect and a little bit of eyeshadow to distress.
They look really nice models.
Thank you.
I believe you've written something about
Yes, I've written it for the Dolls House scales, but the techniques in there for exterior finishes can be adapted really easily into for railway modelling.
So this is something that people might want to get hold of a copy of. How would they do that?
They can go to our online shop or they can see us at shows. We normally have a stock of them.
You can always phone us up and place an order
Yeah.
over the telephone as well. It's not a problem at all.
So there you go. Petit Properties and Bee's book, Create Exterior Finishes, available to buy on its website. Of course, if you'd like to see any of these lovely kits in stock with Petit Properties, visit its website at www.petit-properties.co.uk. Am I right?
.com.
Right, okay.
Sorry.
You had a 50-50 chance of getting that right.
Is there a look at me as
Next month, don't miss our guided tour of Bridgnorth Signal Box with a rundown on how everything works inside.